So if you garden at all, you probably grow tomatoes. Anybody who grows anything, usually the first thing that they'll grow is tomatoes, and that's for a good reason. Tomatoes are super easy. They produce a lot from a few amount of plants, and probably the biggest reason to grow them is that you can't really recreate the flavor of a tomato that you grow yourself and eat immediately. You can buy the most expensive tomato from the grocery store. You could even buy something from a local farmer's market that's really fresh. Nothing is going to be quite as fresh as a tomato that you harvest immediately and eat immediately. I don't know the science behind it, but tomatoes just start changing almost immediately as soon as you take them off the plant. So if you grow tomatoes like us, you might end up with a pretty good problem that you have to figure out how to solve, and that is what to do with extras. Now, most of the time, if you have a larger tomato, like a Roma, you can just freeze them and make them into sauce when you get a chance. For whatever reason, most of the time people don't consider these smaller cherry tomatoes for sauce. And at first, I was a little, concerned. What am I going to do with all these tomatoes? Because I thought you can't make sauce out of them, and we have a ton of cherry tomatoes. So what I ended up doing is an experiment where I just made a super quick and simple sauce out of them, and that was a great success. So I'm going to share what I did, how I made that, and I'm hoping you try it out too and let me know what you think. It's going to be super quick, super simple. Total cook time is probably not even 30 minutes, and you're not going to have to take off the skins and separate the seeds like you normally do with a larger tomato. So I have my tomato bowl from the kitchen. This is where we put some of our harvested tomatoes. Um, the ones in the bowl are getting a little old, so that's why I decided to make sauce. I'm just going to top it off with some of these, and I'll see you back in the kitchen. So out on the counter, I have pretty much everything I'm going to use to make the sauce. We have the tomatoes, obviously. I have a small clove of garlic, or head of garlic from the garden, small onion from the garden. I'm going to use the entirety of both of those. Then some brown sugar, olive oil, and the only other ingredient is just a pinch of salt. I'm going to use a Ninja blender. You could use any blender, food processor. And I don't know exactly how much this will make because I've only done this by eye and I've only eaten it immediately, but it should be not even enough to fill up this whole jar, probably a little bit less than that jar, which is a quart jar. So I'm going to just start by cutting up the garlic and onion, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so we got our garlic, we got our onion cut up. It doesn't really matter how you cut these because they're all going in the blender. And again, this isn't really a recipe video, so if these amounts don't look good to you, change them to your taste. So next thing we're going to do is blend the tomatoes. So I'm going to have to blend these a few times because I can only fit this many tomatoes into the cup. If you can blend all your tomatoes at once, that's fine, you can do that. If you can do that, you'll also want to toss in your garlic and onion because those are all going to get blended. But I'm just going to start with these tomatoes that I have in here. I'm also going to turn the heat on under my pot. I have a tablespoon of olive oil in the pot, and I'm going to turn it on to medium-high just to start letting it get warm. And what I'm going to do is as soon as I blend these, I am going to pour the contents of this cup into the pot and then just keep blending until all my ingredients are in the pot. Overfilled that one a little bit, so some leaks, but that's all right. So as you see, once you blend that down, you don't have as much juice or whatever as as you put in tomatoes into the cup. So this won't be that much sauce at the end of the day. So I'm just going to repeat that until this bowl of tomatoes is empty. So I have the last of my cherry tomatoes in here. Now I'm just going to throw in the garlic and onions and blend that and add it to the sauce that is already cooking, has already started to cook in the pot. Bit of a mess, but that's all right. So we have our sauce here starting to cook. It looks like it's a lot, but it'll all cook down. And at this point, really all we're doing is cooking this down, getting the water to evaporate, and this will get more red as time goes on. All right, at this point the sauce is at a decent simmer. You kind of just want to watch the heat and make sure it's not too high or too low, and you just want to stir occasionally and just make sure it doesn't boil over or anything. But from here, all I'm really going to do is add a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Stir that in. Focus. Stir that in. And from here, really, you're just watching to see when the sauce comes to a consistency that you like. So in my experience, that takes about 20 to 30 minutes. But really, you just have to watch and see when the sauce looks like it's the consistency you want. I'm going to be putting the sauce in the fridge and using it later, so I'm going to have it a little bit more liquidy than I would be if I was cooking like pasta in this right now, because then when I go take it out of the fridge and put it in my pot or my pan, well, my pot, with some hot noodles, some of the water will cook off. So I want to have a little bit extra water in the sauce now. But that's pretty much it. I will just show you what I end up with here. Before I show you what I end up with, reminder, pinch of salt, or however much salt you want, so salt to taste. Alright, so I'm here with the sauce off the heat. That is the thickness that I want it at right now. Let me see if I can try to show you that with the spoon. You can definitely cook it a little more. This is good for now for how I want to keep it, because this will be cooked a little more once I go to make pasta. So from here, I am just going to put it in the jar and we'll see how much we got. All right, and here we are with the finished product. The sauce is done. Looks like it just filled up right under a quart. So perfect for my needs. I'll probably have this for dinner tonight or tomorrow. Comments that I would have on this: yes, you will see seeds in your sauce. As you could see, they're visible on camera. You will also have skin in your sauce. We didn't take any of that stuff. In my opinion, it's fine. Cherry tomatoes have really soft skins and seeds. You can barely feel it, and I think it adds a small amount of texture to the extent that you can. I think this will turn out pretty good, and a lot of people will like this. Another comment, so this is super scalable. You saw how many tomatoes we used, and we got just under a quart. So this isn't necessarily a reason that you want to grow cherry tomatoes for. Obviously, there are tomatoes you might be able to see in the background that are more traditionally used for sauce, but this is a good way of getting rid of extra cherry tomatoes. So we use an entire bowl to make this amount of sauce. So if you do like it and you do have a ton of cherry tomatoes, definitely scale that up, make yourself a bunch of sauce, and you will get rid of those. But yeah, thank you for watching. After I have this for dinner, I will let you know in the description how I liked it and if I would make any changes. And I will also, even though this isn't really a recipe video, I'll write down the recipe that I used, or at least the ingredients that I used in the description. So yeah, thanks, and I'll see you next time.